The secret code I taught my daughter saved her life 20 years later. I taught Rachel the code when she was 6 years old. We called it our special language and used it so she could signal me if she ever felt unsafe around adults or needed help without making a scene. Garden party meant danger. Visiting grandma meant help me. Baking bread meant I'm scared. We used it throughout her childhood, mostly for innocent things like getting her out of boring play dates or signaling when she wanted to leave somewhere. By the time she was in college, we'd stopped using it completely. When Rachel got married to Derek 3 years ago, I was thrilled. He seemed perfect, successful, charming, completely devoted to her. But 6 months after the wedding, I started getting strange texts from Rachel. Hey mom, Derek and I have decided we need some space to work on our marriage. We're taking some time away from family and friends to focus on each other. Please don't worry about me or try to visit. This is what we both want. Something felt wrong immediately. Rachel and I talked every single day. She would never just cut me off like that, and the phrasing was weird. Rachel didn't talk like that. The text kept coming over the next few weeks. I know you're probably hurt, but this is really important for our relationship. Derek has been helping me see that I was too dependent on you and I need to grow up. We're working through some things together. That made my blood boil because Rachel was the most independent person I knew. Then the messages started including our old code. We've been going to lots of garden parties lately and meeting Derek's colleagues. Garden party meant danger. I read it again, my hands shaking. The next text said, I'm thinking about visiting grandma soon, maybe next month. Visiting grandma meant help me. I started going through every text she'd sent me. Derek's mother taught me how to bake bread and I've been practicing every day. Baking bread meant I'm scared. My daughter was being held by her husband and she was using our childhood code to tell me. I tried calling her, but Derek answered her phone. Rachel's resting right now. She asked me to handle her calls because she's been overwhelmed. I'll tell her you reached out. I asked when I could see her and he said they needed more time. I kept texting Rachel trying to subtly let her know I understood, but I wasn't sure my messages were getting through. Then at 4 in the morning, I got a text that made my heart stop. Mom, I'm doing so much better now. I went to a garden party yesterday, spent the morning visiting grandma, and came home to bake bread all afternoon. Derek is taking such good care of me. Every single code word was in that message. The next message she sent was their address. Derek must have moved them because I'd never heard of that street. I drove there at dawn. It was a small house in a neighborhood I didn't recognize. I parked down the block and crept up to look through the windows. What I saw made my blood run cold. Derek had Rachel backed into a corner of the kitchen. She was crying and he was screaming in her face. I could see bruises on her arms. He raised his hand and I didn't think. I grabbed a rock from the garden and smashed the kitchen window. Derek spun around in shock. I climbed through the broken window and put myself between him and Rachel. Get away from my daughter. He looked stunned for about 2 seconds and then his face twisted with rage. Get out of my house or I'm calling the police. I pulled out my phone. Good idea. I'll call them for you. Rachel was sobbing behind me. Derek lunged for my phone, but I was already dialing. He grabbed my wrist and Rachel screamed. A neighbor must have heard the window break because suddenly there were people at the door yelling that they'd called the cops. Derek let go of me and backed away. The police arrived within minutes. They saw Rachel's bruises and Derek's fury and the broken window and immediately separated us. One officer took Rachel outside while another started questioning Derek. That's when the officer asked me what happened and I explained that my daughter had been sending me coded messages begging for help. Derek's head whipped around. What are you talking about? I showed the officer the texts. Garden parties, visiting grandma, baking bread. We created a code when she was little so she could tell me if she was ever in danger. She's been using it to tell me he was hurting her. Derek stared at me like I was insane. Are you fucking kidding me? You had some kind of secret language? What kind of paranoid psycho shit is that? The officer looked at him and said, Sir, you need to calm down. Derek was handcuffed and arrested right there. He was charged with domestic violence and false imprisonment. Rachel is safe now and living with me while she recovers.